Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our full review of the Nike Pegasus 41. So the Pegasus 41 is obviously the latest version of the Pegasus, Nike's very popular and long-running line of daily trainers. My sample for this review was provided by Sports Shoes. We're not affiliated with Sports Shoes in any way, and as always, our reviews are completely unbiased, but I want to say thank you to them for sorting out the sample so I could review the shoe. It costs £130 in the UK, $140 in the US. It weighs in at 291 grams or 10.3 ounces in a UK size 9, and you've got a 10mm drop from heel to toe. Pegasus 41 is a fairly substantial update on the Pegasus 40 with an all-new midsole design where the main foam used is Nike's ReactX foam that we saw introduced with the Infinity Run 4. It's meant to be a bouncier material than the React foam used on the last few versions of the Pegasus, and also one that's a little bit more eco-friendly. You still also have air zoom pods under the heel and forefoot encased within the midsole to make it a little bit more responsive and versatile. You've got an engineered mesh upper with plenty of padding around the tongue and on the heel collar of the shoe. It's meant to be a little bit more breathable, especially in the forefoot though, compared to the Pegasus 40. You have a waffle tread outsole, which has a few changes in lug design compared to the Pegasus 40, but it's still a thick layer of rubber that covers most of the bottom of the shoe and has proved pretty durable for us with past versions of the Pegasus.
So a quick word on fit then. I ran in my regular Nike shoe size, which is a UK 8.5. I think the main thing is you can see how sort of flexible these uppers are. There's an awful lot of wiggle room in the toe box. There's a really good thumbs width up there towards the end, which actually maybe comes up a little bit too long. So the whole uppers are really nicely flexible. There's a lot of stretching in around the toe knuckles as well. I did have to work sort of reasonably hard to get the lace lockdown right in the midfoot here. This kind of cinching here takes a bit. You've got to pull the laces quite tight and pull the tongue up. But once it's in place, I didn't have any slipping or any movement. Back into the heel collars, I think there's kind of good sort of padding and good hold here. The heel flicks still come up quite high, but they are sort of kicked back, so I didn't get any pressure under the Achilles, but maybe for some people that might be a consideration. But overall, I think plush, comfortable. Once you've got this laced in nice and tight, it's a good lockdown, and I would recommend going true to size in these shoes.
Comes to fit, I've got no real concerns about the Pegasus 41. It fits me well in my normal running shoe size, which is a UK 9, US 10 for Nike, which is what I have across their range of shoes. Got a good amount of room in the toe box, had a comfortable and secure hold around the heel and collar. And I've not had any problems with my Achilles being rubbed or irritated at all by this heel design. So yeah, all good for me in my normal running shoe size. So I've run 55 kilometers in the Nike Pegasus 41, doing a mix of daily training, mostly at pretty easy paces, but with a couple of slightly faster outings as well. I wasn't that excited or enthused by the shoe on our first run video, but it is a shoe that has really grown on me. I think it's a very solid daily trainer all around. It's been comfortable, ticks over nicely at a range of paces. It just feels like a very good, solid, reliable addition to the Pegasus lineup. So with the new foam underfoot, I'd say it's probably a fraction more comfortable than past versions of the Pegasus. It's got a little bit of squish to it, a little bit more squish anyway, this ReactX foam, but it's not at all wobbly. It doesn't really feel like it's sapping the legs at all. It's not like you're wading through mushiness, which I did find sometimes with the Infinity Run 4, which had the all ReactX midsole. That just felt like very heavy and quite leaden shoe underfoot, that one that I enjoyed kind of less and less as the longer a run went on, but that's been the opposite with the Pegasus 41. It does feel like a quite resilient foam, and over the course of longer runs it feels really good, and I do feel like my legs tick over well in it, and it feels quite protective. So at the end of longer runs it was always easy enough to move through the gears and stuff like that. I guess that's probably helped a bit by the air zoom pods in the midsole there, but all around I think I like the feel of this midsole a bit more to the last couple of versions of the Pegasus, which had the React foam with the air zoom pods. I think all round the performance level of the shoe is pretty similar in terms of how versatile it is, and maybe it's a little bit more comfortable this new version, but I just like the ride a bit more. It gives me a better feeling. There's a bit more, like I say, resilience, a bit more comfort. I think it is just a slightly improved midsole all round. When it comes to versatility, the shoe very much sits at the cushioned end of daily trainers. I think it's comparable to things like the Brooks Glycerin, the Brooks Ghost, those kind of shoes, and probably my taste skews more towards the lighter end of daily trainers these days, things like the Hoka Max 6, New Balance Rebel V4, even the Puma Velocity Nitro 3 that are a bit more lightweight and have slightly livelier rides, and part of that is because those shoes I think are a bit better for speedier running of any type. But I have upped the pace on a few runs in the Pegasus, and it can move pretty fast. Like I did a couple of fairly steady mile reps in the shoe today. You know, you can lift your pace. It doesn't really have much push and like kind of uplift from the forefoot of the shoe in particular. I think as you transition through to that, it can feel a little bit dead underfoot when you're running at pace and you're maybe expecting a slightly a poppier feeling, or the feeling you now get from plated trainers, that kind of thing. I don't think the geometry of the shoe is really geared up particularly for faster running, but you can pick up the pace now. Okay, I found it runs a bit lighter on the foot than it is on the scales, but at the same time, among daily trainers, I think it veers much more towards that cushioned end of things, and there are a lot of daily trainers coming out these days that are geared up a bit more to be able to handle faster running, whether they have a plate or not. One last note on the run test is the outsole has been very good for me. I was doing those reps today on quite a twisty circuit with a couple of hard turns, and yeah, it does grip well when you're turning corners at pace. You can go on light trails in the shoe with no problem or anything like that. So I have enjoyed the outsole on the Pegasus over the last few versions, and the 41 looks like it's going to be very good as well for both durability and grip.
A few generations have passed since I ran in the Nike Pegasus, and I think the last pegs that I laced up were probably back to the 38, so I'm coming to these 41s kind of fresh and open-minded actually. I wasn't 100% sure what to expect when I put them on. In testing, I've now clocked well over 50 miles. That includes a 16-miler followed by a full marathon the next day. I went back to run a section of the Danube for those two runs, and we moved pretty slowly in some big heat. So I've spent long hours on feet laced into the Pegasus 41. I also did some shorter runs with a faster 4-miler with 5k within that pushed beyond my current marathon pace. Now I'm going to go straight in. I really like this shoe. It's got an excellent disappearing feel on the foot. It's spacious and roomy, perhaps bordering on being marginally long in the toe, but it feels light, unfussy. It's easy to slip on, and it has really good instant comfort the moment you lace it down. That's how I found it. Sometimes you get shoes that just feel right straight out of the box, and for me, this was one of those that fit my foot really well. The ride is cushioned, and despite some weight gain over the last gen peg, I still found it light on the run, protective and cushioned, but not overly soft and laboured. For me, it's a workhorse that'll easily eat those sort of easier, slower miles, but there is versatility here too. Now, it's not as punchy as some faster tuned daily trainers like the Endorphin Speed 4, but there's some bounce and energy from the combo of that ReactX midsole and the Air Zoom pods that makes it light and lively enough to be relatively happy at faster pace as well. Capable, certainly, if not remarkable, moving up the gears is how I describe it. It's got that gliding, rangy capacity that I really love in my running shoes. I felt like I could pop it on for almost anything and it would do a solid job. Now, it might not be the most cushioned shoe, and fans of softer, springier shoes might not find enough underfoot here when you compare it to some of the other shoes that we've seen recently. Now, it might not be the fastest and most energetic for faster runs either, but I think it's excellent at treading the middle ground. You've got good enough at the long, slow, and the upper pace. It kind of makes a virtue of versatility. Now, for my marathon test, I was on my feet for 6 hours carrying a 5 kilo pack and running at times in 30-degree heat, Celsius that is. I needed a shoe that was going to look after me for that, while I was landing kind of flatter footed further back and taking more road impact. Basically you couldn't have a run that invited more of the dread foot fatigue than this run. And the Pegasus 41 delivered for me in those conditions. It was cushioned, stable, light enough and comfortable, with some extra spring and energy from the Air Zoom units. Reliable is really what I would say. There's good breathability in the uppers. I needed that when the temperatures topped 30 degrees. But overall, you've got balanced comfort and hold without excessive plushness from these kind of medium padded heel collars and the tongues. I like the flex in the uppers too, though some might want a little bit more structure sometimes and support here, particularly if you're taking tighter and twistier courses. But for long straight miling, I think what you're getting here is a roomy and unrestricted feel, which I really like. Now, when I moved up a gear for the 5k, I pushed up to sort of 6 minutes 30, around that on average, which is sort of probably my marathon pace at the moment. I found there was just enough lightness, response and energy to move happily at that pace. Now, I wouldn't choose it as my go-to for that kind of run. There are more energetic options, more exciting options, but it's certainly a shoe that I think lets you go there if you want to. And that versatility is what really stood out for me with the Nike Pegasus 41, but more on that in the verdict. One final word on durability. After 60 miles, I'm already seeing some signs of wear to the outsole studs here, and that's a bit of a worry so early on. And if that continues at the rate that I'm seeing now, that could limit the long-term lifespan of the Peg 41, so that's just something to be aware of. Verdict then, and I'm a big fan of this shoe. Nowadays, we're often being pitched shoes tweaked for very specific purposes in our running. We're encouraged to build a rotation, but increasingly I find myself looking for one thing maybe above all else, and that's versatility. I think there's a lot to be said for having one shoe that can cover most of your runs, particularly if you're a newer runner or you're someone who just wants to save a bit of cash and have some simplicity. I get why brands are working to make shoes that excel for kind of all different types of runs, but there is a lot to be said for a shoe that will cater for most runs, for most runners, and I think the Nike Pegasus 41 is one of those shoes, just like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 or like a Puma Velocity Nitro. And because of that, for £155, I think it starts to look like good value for money. If you like really cushioned, bouncy shoes, they might not be 100% here to sort of tick your box. If you want the best punchy energy and response, faster shoes, there are better shoes. But I think as a multi-purpose tool to have in your running toolbox, the Nike Pegasus 41 are very capable. Now I'm about to go on holiday and this shoe is going to go in my suitcase to cover all of my mileage. It's perfect for that kind of thing. One final thing, I don't tend to worry too much what a shoe looks like as long as it performs, but I do love the neon yellow and I like the overall silhouette of the shoe as well. In the more subtle colours, this is definitely a shoe that I think you can wear when you're not running as well, which is an added bonus.
So my verdict is the Pegasus 41 is another very solid and good addition to the Pegasus line. So there certainly are some notable changes in the midsole feel compared to the Pegasus 40, and I think overall I think they have improved the shoe. Performance level in terms of its versatility and comfort hasn't changed that much, but I do think this is a slightly more comfortable shoe, similar in versatility to the Pegasus 40, and all round a very reliable option for a workhorse trainer that can pick up a lot of miles. I also think it's a pretty good looking shoe. I really like this white colourway, so that does help in terms of its all-rounder status. If you're just going to walk around in a shoe as well as using it for your running, this is a very good option, good holiday shoe in that regard as well. And given the way the Pegasus seems to go on sale quite a lot, it will definitely be one I think that'll be worth looking at when it comes to sales. The price at RRP is kind of okay. It is straying into a market where I think there are lots of very good shoes available for that price, which I'll come on to, but this will be a shoe that pops up in sales, and I think it is a pretty reliable option. If you pick it up, you are going to get a very good shoe. It's an easy one to recommend, similar to the Brooks Go 16. You can give it to newer runners, and it'll be a very good shoe to do all your running in, protective, a little bit of versatility, and if you are someone who has a rotation, maybe a bit more experienced, you could look at this as a cushion daily trainer to have in there. For all those positive words though, there is a lot of competition in this area, and I think you can pick up livelier, more exciting shoes, more versatile shoes. It really kind of depends on your preference. So if you are just looking for that, straightforward cushion daily, the Pegasus 41 is up there. It's a really good option, but if you're looking for something a bit more lightweight, a bit more versatile, I think you can get that now with shoes with more impressive foams. Shoes like the Hoka Max 6 and the Rebel V4 are lighter, probably a bit more speed focused, but the Hoka Max 6 in particular I think is a very comfortable shoe you can use for easy runs as well. They're definitely better for that faster stuff, and I think they would be the kind of daily trainer I would really look for myself. But if you do want shoes that are a bit more cushioned than those, that still have a bit more versatility than the Pegasus, there is the Asics Nova Blast 4 or the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. They're just really good shoes all round, I'd say. Like, they're very cushioned, they're comfortable, they're fast, they've got slightly livelier midsole foams than the Pegasus and better geometry for fast running, so those are two really good options. Puma Velocity Nitro 3 also comes in cheaper and is another shoe that often pops up in sales. And if you want a really cushioned shoe that's probably a bit more comfort focused than even the Pegasus for daily training, I think there's things like the Brooks Glycerin 21, Puma Magnify Nitro 2, very comfortable shoes, similar drop, kind of similar setups to the Nike, which is not the most rocketed shoe, but again I think they have slightly better foams in their midsole. So all around I do really like the Pegasus. Like I say, if you pick it up, I think you won't be disappointed. It's a really solid workhorse, a good addition to the line. I think it's a shoe that's built to meet the needs of as many runners as possible. It will satisfy lots and lots of runners. I think if you're really dialing in on your personal preferences and what you want from a shoe, you will be able to find it with some of the shoes I've listed there. Like I say, I'd look at a lighter shoe myself. I might look at a plated trainer, but if you just want a pretty good generalist running shoe, the Pegasus 41 is certainly that. That's our review of the Nike Pegasus 41. Once again, thank you to Sports Shoes for providing my sample for this review. Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.